now that we don't go shopping for the whole month of January and February, it's really nice to just go outside in the garden and harvest some carrots. And the slugs has also seen the carrots, so this one is hollow all the way, but fortunately it's not all of them. So I just harvested a few of them, and then I'll take them inside and do something really nice with them, make a yummy dish. And my Muscovy ducks just spotted me in the garden, so they are coming down in this end, but they're not that fast, so I can go and wash my carrots first. I'll just put them in this rainwater just to take off the worst of the dirt, and then I'll wash them all the way when I get inside. And now the ducks got down to us in this end of the garden, and they saw that Aki, my dog, also was here. And I don't know why, but I really think that she's funny or something, because they just keep on walking after her, and sometimes they nibble on her tail, but she just walks away. She doesn't do anything. And now that I'm inside again, I want to grab some things from my pantry, and as you can see, I have a lot of stuff stored out here, and I will soon go through it all, and I have some new shelvings that I'll put some of the stuff on, so it's easier to find what I need. But down here I have some kohlrabi, so I'll just pick out a nice one and use it for the dish I'm making. And I also have a few zucchinis that I have stored for several months now, and as long as they are not small and tender, they can actually store for a really long time. And this is just some of the jars that I have. I also picked up a few apples and this other vegetable that I don't know the name of. So I'm putting them in the sink to my carrots and some little pumpkins that I will clean up. And I also have all of these other pumpkins that I can use this whole winter and spring, because they can last a really long time. And I also needed an onion and some peanuts and a can of coconut milk. And some cashews. So it's really nice to just go outside in the pantry and do all my shopping without paying anything. And this is one of my freezers. And I have some turkey down here that we smoked in December. So it's already cooked. And then up here in my ice cube boxes I have some paste that I made for some kimchi. So there's a lot of ginger and garlic and other spices in, so I'll use that in my curry. Now that I have washed up all of my vegetables, I'm going to chop them in pretty small cubes so that they will all cook evenly and get nice and soft. And a few days ago I also took these things out of my freezer. There's some cream and some zucchini and some chicken broth that I made out of our own chickens. And that is a really nice way to use up some of the bones to boil them for a long time and make broth out of it, so you can get all of the minerals and the proteins from them. And then this is my kind of mini pantry, but I don't really use it that much for food storage, only these jars of tomato sauce, and so because I didn't have room in my other pantry. So this is homemade tomato sauce that I made this fall, and I have some tomato paste that I will put into the vegetables, and I just roast them off in the pan before I put in all of the broth so that they can boil and get soft. And now I'm putting in the chicken broth, and it's still a little frozen, but it doesn't matter, it will thaw really quickly in the pan. I'll just put on the lid and let it thaw, and then it will get to a boil in a short amount of time. And it is already thawed now. And now I'm just putting in that paste that I talked about before. It will give it a really nice color and taste. And now I'm putting in the rest of the spices, and this is some curry powder. And I don't really measure any spices, I just put them in and then I'll taste it on the way. And this is some homemade chipotle chili powder. This is the hot one where I used all of the seeds. I also have a milder one where I took out the seeds before I smoked it. But it gives it a really nice and sweet taste with a little spice. And this is chili paste or chili sauce called sambal oleg, and I'm also just using a few spoonfuls of this. It's quite spicy, so a little goes a long way. And this is some homemade orange jam that I made a few weeks ago. I sweetened it with erythritol, and this particular jar crystallized, so that's why I'm using it in a dish instead of using it on bread or something like that. And I'll just put in my tomato sauce. And I'm putting in the whole bag of cashews. And when you put it into a dish and boil them for a while, they'll get really soft and they doesn't taste like a nut at all. So it's a really nice addition to the dish. And then I'm chopping up the 2 apples, and I will add them at the end so they won't get too soft. And I do the same thing with my peppers. They will still have just a little crunch to them. And I will put in the white part of the spring onions into the dish, and then the rest of it I will put on top when I serve it. So now I'm just putting in the apples and the peppers and the white part of the spring onions and just tossing it around a little, and they will be in there for maybe 10 minutes before I serve it up. And I have these slim noodles that are almost carb free. They smell a little funny, so I'll just wash them before I use them. And then I'll put them in boiling water for about 2 minutes, and then they're ready to eat. And as I mentioned, the turkey is already cooked, so I'm just putting it in at the end so it can just heat up a little. And then I have those zucchinis that I also took out of the freezer, and they're already soft, so I'll also just put them in at the end so they won't get too soft before we eat them. And it's really nice to grow all of these things and prep them and have them in the freezer, so it's easy to use up in the winter time. Now the noodles are ready, so I'll put them in our bowls, and I'll just top them with our curry sauce. And if you have a hard time to eat a lot of vegetables, this is a really good way to do it, because you saw how many vegetables I put into the dish, and you don't really think about it when you eat it, even though you can see them, but they all have a really nice and creamy taste from the sauce and all of the spices. So I feel that it's a really good way to get in a lot of vegetables into the diet. And then I top the dish with some of the salted peanuts and the spring onions. And then we are ready to eat. And this dish was made entirely off of things we had in the house or in our garden.